अंग्रेज अपना लगान, न्यूज लॉन्ड्री अपना हफ्ता और न्यूज लॉन्ड्री के सब्सक्राइबर्स अपना सब्सक्राइबर्स टेक कभी नहीं छोड़ते. Welcome to NL Hafta Subscribers Take. This is the new format as we have come up with after much deliberation and discussion, including feedback from you. Just to tell you what this is, because Hafta is anything from 1 hour, 10 minutes to 2 hours long. We could not include as many emails and feedback that was coming, and now each Hafta there could be anything from 10 to 30 emails that would come. So we have devised a new system where we read about 4 to 6 emails in the Hafta, and all the other emails will be read every 4 to 6 weeks as a full collection, so we can do justice and give enough time to each email, because otherwise we're rushing through them, because if we have to do like 20 emails in one Hafta. So that is this new format, and this is that show, and it will come to you, like I said, every 4 to 6 weeks, and the entire NL's Toli will be part of this, so that everyone can respond to whatever critique or appreciation you have towards us individually or jointly. So on the panel today, Raman Kripal.
Hi.
Joining us in subtle colors from Chennai is Jayashree Arunachalam.
Hello. And subtle colors because today is my birthday, guys.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
19 May.
Yes.
So
Very nice.
Happy birthday to you.
you will cut the cake virtually, huh?
Yeah.
Done.
Okay, excellent. Manisha Pandey
Hello.
and Anand Vardhan. So, what we'll do is we have about 70 emails that have got collected from the last 5 haftas since we started this new system. So we will do in lots of 10-10. We shall read them between Jayashree, Manisha and I, so that we don't collapse of exhaustion. So who wants to go first?
I can go.
All right,
guys want.
Manisha, why don't you start for the first 10?
So the first set of letters pertain to the Indo-Pak escalation / conflict / war, however you view it. First one is from Shrikant. Says, thanks to Manisha for countering Jayashree's ill-timed rant on women thrown to the dogs. I agree that questioning the government isn't unpatriotic, but who asks and when matters. When an upper caste person questions Dalit concerns, however legitimate, they're seen as privileged and casteist. When a Dalit sees injustice everywhere, it's often viewed as a flight for justice, even if some of it is self-fulfilling prophecy. A left-wing liberal critiquing capitalism is dismissed as indoctrinated, enjoying the very comforts capitalism offers. A right-winger questions social security is seen as out of touch, a caste politics beneficiary. Similarly, when the Wire Caravan News Laundry questioned the government on border tensions, it feels like birds of a feather singing rehearsed tunes. Meanwhile, pro-government media croon so loudly for their masters you can't hear the song, just noise. Still, even indoctrinated lyrics have some melody. Very confusing to get the last.
Very confusing. Also, just want to point out
Too many
that
puns.
all emails that are above 150 words are going to be compressed into 150 words, because otherwise that some mails are 300 words, some are 700 words. So if your mail sounds a little different from what you've written, it's because we have compressed it into 150.
I want to say one thing, which is this that, I take the point, but also I do think there is never a good time to ask the question, because we'll say we can't ask the question now, but then in a couple of weeks we'll still say it's not appropriate, then it'll be, well, people died, so you should say that. So I feel we get into this sort of endless cycle of wondering when it is appropriate for you to ask a question of the government or to give an opinion.
And you're very right, it's never appropriate, because as we record this show, a professor in Ashoka University is in jail for saying exactly what you had pointed out.
Yeah, we've
The
said that
hypocrisy
here.
of-
Exactly. And that vile BJP mantri who said Colonel Qureshi, unhi ki behnon ko, he is running around free, being defended by his party. I mean, it is...
No, but Supreme Court is...
Of course. But why does it have to go to Supreme Court? Now, this guy spent another night in jail. This professor.
And also, the real question is completely lost. What happened to the intelligence?
Yeah,
And what happened to the real culprits?
But I just have one view, Shrikant, which is actually goes, just one step even behind at the first principles. Your email is based on the foundation, at least apparently, correct me if I'm wrong. And you've used the word also, patriotism. I mean, I personally think patriotism is primitive virtue. I don't think patriotism is any great virtue. I think it is for idiots.
No.
You have to have values. I mean, so are you saying anyone who questions Israel and Israeli right now is unpatriotic?
No.
So what is
But that's
patriotism?
not.
You see,
But we've
patriotism
already
is
had this
but
debate.
patriotism is a very vague definition of what is patriotism. So, I mean, I think that any discussion which takes patriotism as a first principle, I cannot offer any value to that discussion because I disagree with the first principle. Anyway, that's my point. Anyone
I
has
agree with
another
that.
But the thing is that the high-minded pedantry, uh, why do there is also it was forwarded to me. There is also a mail that says I am taking that into account in the discussion that what it achieved, what the operation achieved, or everything.
That's
So,
a strategic call.
No. So what I'm saying is that the other in the national community in which you live, other discourse will be run, say within the consensus that the borders matter. Borders matter because we are living in an international system where citizens are nationally marked. And nationally marked and other political parties which may not be in line with the current political party ideologically, they would first try to have a national consensus on the defense, because even UN Article 51 says that self-defense is the
legitimate.
right that because you are not reinventing the wheel, that we are a borderless world. So that is one thing. I think 2 days back, New York Times had an editorial. It's an editorial board piece on why we root for Mr. Friedrich, German counselor. So they also talked the same thing, that the popular opinion in these countries, say Germany, France, and this, is against immigration. And the mainstream politics failed because it was not taking into account this national concern about borders. And it quoted writer David Bohm that if liberals insist that borders are to be manned or it has to be enforced by fascists only, then people will employ fascists to do the job which liberals refuse to do.
But what does it have to do with patriotism?
Patriotism, because it's no, I am talking about an second mail, because it had also the same concern. Patriotism and nationalism I am not bringing in.
As a concept. No, of course. I mean, as a concept, it's like basically you can agree with something at a conceptual level, but not be able to find. For example, universal healthcare is someone not anybody will disagree with. But can you afford it, and at what cost is the question? So capitalism should provide for universal healthcare. If it can't, capitalism has failed. But so yes, if you cannot balance the book, some fascists go and balance it for you. But that's very different from someone saying, which also is a position that many nationalists take, we will not treat XYZ with basic humanity. That is a question of what your value system is. That is a question of balancing the book.
Yeah, so the political discourse, like say demonizing the immigrants, but the other extreme is that we are open border, or 2015 Merkel's that we will manage this. Now, even constitutional patriotism, if you go to the tenets of it, it does not say that these constitutional principles apply to borders beyond. So even it is taking into account that we are a bordered world. So that is one thing, one aspect of political theory that comes into it.
Also, I think if there are civilians in line of fire during the war, I think there will definitely be questions.
No, of course.
And this is not unpatriotic to question about that.
Yeah,
Telling
I
their
don't think
stories.
patriotic itself is a foolish emotion, but I think self-serving individuals who use it for their own politics are definitely should be called out.
All right.
Anonymous says, assuming the ceasefire holds, what was the point of all this? What did India aim for and gain? For any Indian not blinded by nationalism or PM worship, the past week is shameful. India came across as a bully globally with no international support. Why? Because the BJP is too busy controlling the internal narrative, building an army of low IQ sellouts. You can't send a Ranga or Yer Mitra on Sky of CNN. Our media hit rock bottom, exposed on the global stage, making Indians a laughing stock. The suppression of critical voices on social media was reminiscent of North Korea. Who are the allies? Pakistan rattled off names like US, China, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, etc. Who did at least Saudi Arabia was
It sat it
not
out.
a
But they
you
sat
can't say
out.
like a Pakistani. Yeah. Finally, our government should be ashamed that Trump announced a ceasefire. This was a disaster. I don't think North Korea and all we are close, but I completely agree that this is something we discussed last time also, that the media and internal propaganda completely took over the official government line of what we were trying to do, and that really muddied everything.
In fact, I had a long discussion. First of all, very clever, Anonymous, you have not given your name in this email because you could be arrested for this email, judging by the mahal we are living in. But the one thing that I personally think that maybe it wasn't as bad as you say. I don't think India came across as a bully or anything. I think India came across as someone who was defending itself, albeit a little clumsily. I think what really damaged India was not so much the foreign policy or the defense angle, which I think was average or above average. I think the Indian media, which is the face of Indian establishment, whether we like it or not, Indian media is seen as Indian establishment voices. And what we used to make fun of Pakistan media, I remember when newslaundry had just started, we used to say that, look how bad they are, we are not that bad. If India and Pak have been hyphenated, I'd say 90% of it is because of the media. Because that's how the world sees us. Even like if you meet many diplomats, they'll say, dude, what does your media show that when our whatever head of state came here, your prime minister guides him? What nonsense, that's not true. I was like, that's our media. But they see that as official position. So I think that is what's done more damage than anything else.
No, we have discussed it. I mean, militarily, of course, in two lines, the Indian achievement is that one thing with relation to Pakistan, you are always in armed peace. You have never been in peace since 1947. It's always armed peace, so military angle cannot be taken out of the picture. We achieved a nation state draws its legitimacy from its citizens through defense. First thing. So we imposed costs on an aggressor which is running a proxy war against us. So we imposed some costs, high costs on us. That's the and
so it's a disincentive.
So disincentive till the next attack happens. It will not stop, but
it's still a disincentive. I think
but disincentive, we have been doing it for decades. That just imposing costs on.
Yeah.
So it will continue because we live in a very hostile neighborhood. Second is that I think media, like the narrative which flowed from it was something that we couldn't manage, and we couldn't manage in our favor because, of course, one was how some media went, say, a section of media. I would not say the whole Indian media because Indian media is very diverse.
Yeah.
So, but a section of media went overboard with its own falsehoods, and that done too clumsily. Also, I think that if you criticize, you would be jailed. Now, this is what even government in its crackdown is not consistent. If it was consistent, we would have given a very good level to it. So, if you see social media, similar things that the professor has said, other people have said. Other people have said. So, if you try filling your jails with these kind of things, your jail will have no space. So even if the government was consistent, people would have known that, this is the new normal, we should not do it. But you spare somebody, you jail somebody. Now, if you have to do certain, say, very repressive things, do it consistently.
No, don't.
But that said, even if they're not being consistent, I mean, I still think it's worth saying that they did. 8,000 social media accounts taken down is just, at least they didn't take down more. I think it's still a bit. And I think this is very tangential, but I think people enjoy saying, oh my God, at least we're not North Korea. Like, that is the benchmark of being really shitty, and we at least will never be that shitty, so we feel a little better about ourselves. But I still think it's pretty bad. So.
The government has taken a very clear stand this time. I think there is a lot more clarity about it. So far as the action is concerned, the Indian government has categorically said that any act of terrorism will be considered a war on us.
Hmm.
So now, so in a way, they are saying that if anything happens now again, so
It's
be
war.
ready for
So
war.
this is the kind of this.
Ah.
Anonymous again says, there's another anonymous letter, says, interestingly, I had a chance to talk to American political streamer Hassan Abi today. And I guess the conversation was quite revealing of how the sensible side of the West views India. He argued that India was the aggressor in the recent conflict, citing attacks on civilian areas in Pakistan and a lack of evidence linking Pakistan to the Pahalgam attack. This perception is compounded by India's global image. While some extreme voices may be dismissive, even moderate Westerners are critical. Notably, some of the most prominent pro-Israel white supremacist accounts on X are reportedly operated by Indians, amplifying Islamophobic narratives. This alignment has led to comparison between Prime Minister Modi, leaders like Erdogan, Trump, positioning him with a global populist and authoritarian framework. Consequently, many in the West instinctively oppose Modi's policies. This raises the question, has India always been viewed this way? Historically, India's global image has been shaped by its non-alignment movement and emphasis on secularism. However, recent shifts towards Hindu nationalism and the government's handling of domestic and international issues have altered perceptions. While India's economic growth and strategic importance have garnered respect, its internal policies and international actions have led to increased scrutiny and criticism from the West.
I mean, by and large, I agree with Anonymous. I think, on economic fronts, there is respect, and because we are seen as a significant market. But on the others, in fact, one of my recommendations today is about how
आज भी recommendation है.
कर देते हैं each time we come. There is a book that's been written, and Ezra Klein had a podcast where he calls it competitive authoritarianism, and he's taken 4 case studies: Trump, Erdogan, Netanyahu, and Modi. And he has pointed out the similarities, and they're stark. Like Erdogan's Adani and Erdogan had a falling out, and because his entire billions were made because of Sarkari favors. So he's made some comparisons which you can't ignore. So yes, we are in that zone for sure. I don't think it's a liberal view or anything. I think it'll be very hard to, not put Modi in that category.
Orisha says, dear team, loved Kashmir ki kahani. Shamefully realized how much of Kashmir's history I had forgotten. What do we really mean when we say Kashmir is an integral part of India? Is it just the valley as a resource for Modi's corporate allies, or are the people part of the integral narrative too? If they are, why are their voices so often missing from national narratives? In recent weeks, we've seen haunting stories from Pahalgam, followed swiftly by celebrations of military valor. From media figures like Faye D'Souza to Bollywood stars like Alia Bhatt, the focus feels selective, celebrating soldiers while mourning Pahalgam victims and the stock market. If Kashmiris are truly integral, why don't we mourn their suffering with the same urgency? They seem to be the biggest victims, treated as collateral damage. Is the mainstream media solely to blame, or is a deeper systemic neglect at play? Mix of both, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it's a bit of both.
Although I think that some journalists, at least, we were discussing NDTV Shivaru's report, which did really make an effort to kind of bring in local voices.
Yeah.
Protests that happened right after Pahalgam were covered. So all that is there, but it's not as sustained. And what lies ahead this summer? What is it going to mean for the entire valley, which was preparing? I mean, we were talking about tourism along the border. We were talking about wedding destination, Kashmir as one. So what is this going to mean the next 3-4 months? Complete collapse of economy there. There has to be more emphasis on that.
But I mean, just 2 points I want to make. One is this whole celebrating the armed forces, I find so performative in many cases in India. Because when it comes, and I'm talking as a Fauji kid, you're a Fauji kid. Go to R&R hospital, see how Faujis are treated. Decorated generals, 88 years old, when they go for treatment. Go see the medicines, how CGHS medicines availability. Luckily, I have friends who, are in the medical business. If I had to have my father in his old age, he's 90 now, treated only by Fauji resources. I mean, I've been there, dude. So first of all, anyone who gets up and salutes, I say, shut up and sit down. Because we've seen what the government has done. They've made this new app, by the way, CGHS jo karte hai na, for medicines. Just try to use it. So I think the government's approach to the military is self-serving and pathetic, and I have zero respect for it. I think they are completely insincere. They do nothing for Faujis. And if you talk to any bureaucrat, they grudge Faujis. How do they get 12 bottles of whiskey in a month? Why do they get tum sala isi mein tum talli hoke raho? So people who get up and start clapping for Fauji's as they sit down, tum apna kaam kar lo, bahut hai. And the second thing is, and I think there's no correct time to say it, in Kashmir, I don't think it can be denied that when Hindus are pushed out of Kashmir, which they were, it did have local support. Let's not pretend it didn't. In Punjab, I'm from Punjab. When the Hindus are pushed out of there, your Sikh neighbor didn't say, I'll occupy your house.
Yes.
Your Sikh neighbor did not say, ki, don't worry, tujhe to jana hai, tera ghar to main rakh lunga.
No, we saved each other. Even in Delhi.
I have relatives in Punjab. The Sikhs said, you go, it's safe here.
Do you think that is the reason why their voices are neglected today? Like
I
the
think-
connection to this?
I don't think it's neglect. I just think that there is that is not explored enough. The Sikh movement in Punjab did not have popular support. They did not say, yes, get the Hindus out of Punjab. I don't think the same can be said about Kashmir. I'm not saying to what extent, but people had to just leave their homes and never get them back.
Situation is quite complex in
It's a lot more
Kashmir.
complex. I mean, there are no good guys there.
The people are radicalized, so you need to first understand and see their aspirations and accordingly. So,
But do you think that entire patriotism thing comes in here also, where there's this feeling that if you criticize Kashmir or you criticize government's handlings of Kashmir and so on, it's also seen as therefore buying into ideas of is it legitimate, is it not, is it occupation? I always feel like the media sort of tiptoes around it or presents it in a certain way only because no one really wants to ask very uncomfortable questions that may make governments look bad, right? Like might make Indian governments look bad.
Yeah, I think it's true. Everyone has to tiptoe around it for risks. There are risks on either side.
Yeah.
It's one of the trickiest zones that way.
Nithila says, very engaging discussion on Hafta 536. It was good to listen to a diversity of perspectives and viewpoints, and all of them perfectly sane and reasonable. Wish TV media would take note. Kezia says, I thoroughly appreciated the recent Hafta episode, especially Jayashree's candid critique of the government's approach to Operation Sindoor. Her analysis highlighted the tokenism in featuring Colonel Sofia Qureshi as a symbol of inclusivity, while the media perpetuates harmful stereotypes such as labeling an Iranian diplomat a pig. This raises the question, if the government can ban platforms like TikTok, why does it allow such derogatory content to proliferate? Furthermore, the naming of the Operation Sindoor is problematic. As a feminist, I find the use of symbols like Sindoor, Mangal Sutra, which are deeply rooted in patriarchal traditions, to be exclusionary. Additionally, the operations focused on Hindu women's grief overlooks the suffering of other communities, such as Christians, who are often marginalized in national narrative. I commend News Laundry for providing nuanced reporting that challenges mainstream narrative. So I don't think Operation Sindoor is patriarchal or
The name you mean?
it's
I do
taking
think-
over. I think there's a certain cultural significance, and
no,
No.
I don't think it's
there's
like
no culture about Sindoor. Sorry.
lot of women put no culture. Kya bhai? You may not, but there is an Indian culture.
No, but I
See,
think
I feel like they're very deliberately, obviously
very
doing it because it
patriarchal.
invokes,
Yes.
women,
I
Hindu
think
women. It's-
means in Delhi, Punjab, Haryana, it meant, but in UP, Bihar, Sindoor is means every woman applies it. Also, a lot of things is like this kind line is why you can't be like me. Everyone is just saying why you cannot say to people who like to apply Sindoor that what makes you happy. What makes me happy also should make you happy. I am boycotting you, so you should also boycott it. There is a every operation's name cannot be very, very like Operation Vijay, Operation Sindoor, because
Operation Vijay.
because I think the political angle it's a very if you see BJP as a Hindu interest party, and there were reports that the victims were marked by their religion and they were shot in front of their wives. So the messaging was that it's for a kind of homage to their sin.
Yeah, I think that was.
I think
It's
that
a-
viral
it's
picture
a-
basically of the newlywed woman with her chudas next to that is the reason why that's a very simple thinking.
Whatever it is, but it's a symbol of patriarchy. And it is not so much of, of course, when it persists for a longer time, it becomes part of culture.
No, I think it's both can be true. I mean, I think it can be. I think what Anand said is true, that it's a Hindu interest party, and they would take a Hindu, like for example, they could have also given it like sindoor is something only Hindu women put. So in that sense, it is talking about a very specific reference point, which is not a common reference but a lot of others. So if one were to go strictly by pick something that doesn't have any political messaging but is representative, you would not pick sindoor. So it is clearly, it's a Hindu interest party. They would pick a Hindu symbol. That is true. For me, is it something I'd make an issue of it right now? No, I wouldn't. But is sindoor a symbol of patriarchy? I don't think one can argue against that. I mean, it's like saying burqa is not a symbol of patriarchy. There's a very excellent conversation. I don't know if you
Is
can take
then
it out.
bindi also a symbol of patriarchy?
Yes, it
A lot
is.
of married
I don't know about
women-
bindi, but sindoor definitely is. I mean, for example, there's a very interesting conversation between Salman Rushdie, who is a brilliant man, who says burqa is a symbol of patriarchy, and a young girl who says, I wear it out of choice. He says, you may be wearing it out of choice. Great, but that doesn't mean it's not a symbol of patriarchy. I can say, I wear a white sari as a widow out of choice. But
No,
it
but
is
to
still a
me,
symbol
I
of
think,
patriarchy.
firstly, there are two aspects. Right? One is enforcement of something and then it becomes patriarchy in the case of burqa, and hiding of your face. Sindoor is simply this red thing that you put in the middle of your mang, which is not, I really don't see how, it's a cultural thing. In the same way as a bindi, a red bindi, married women, mehendi becomes patriarchy, then a dupatta over
could.
salwar
No,
becomes
it-
patriarchy.
But it could, right?
Every-
That's the
But it
argument.
could.
The
That
thing
is,
is,
anything can
even
be
if I
patriarchy.
need
Sure,
to
but I don't think
wear
that-
it or
I
not
don't-
wear it.
I mean, it's
Okay, there
curious.
are
Why do you
70
say?
letters.
One sec.
Okay.
But it's curious. Why would you say that? Yes, burqa is a sign of patriarchy, but sindoor is not.
Because the root
Why?
of it is to hide your face, to stop men getting attracted to you. The root to sindoor is, I don't know what the root of it is. What?
Woman
So
is-
for me,
It's
that's
just
The
like
root
a
of
sign
sindoor
that
is
this
to
seat is
mark you
taken.
out as a married
that
woman.
this seat is taken. Yeah, what is it?
It's not the seat is taken, yeah. It's
What is
not
it?
at all
It
that.
is just
I'm curious.
whatever it is. say,
This is a man says, okay, this is my
No,
territory. What
it's
else is
like,
it?
why do you wear a wedding ring?
wedding
It's
ring,
like
like
that.
But that's
It's
not
a wedding ring.
But it's not an Indian custom.
What
But
is not
also
an Indian
wedding rings
custom?
are both
Wedding
worn
ring is
by
not.
both.
It's not a Hindu custom.
No, but wedding
It's
rings are
not,
worn
but
by
sindoor
both.
I'm saying is just
Sindoor is
a-
worn
No,
by a
you're saying,
woman,
why do you wear a wedding ring? I don't know.
I'm
but
saying
it's
it's
not
a
Hindu
marker
custom.
of you being married in the same way that mehendi is.
Yes,
or a
but it is a marker of
bindi
you being
is,
married
or
for
a-
both wear a wedding ring. Do men wear sindoor?
Men don't wear sindoor. No, thankfully they don't wear sindoor. They look very silly if they wear sindoor. But I'm sure, what do men do?
I think
Married
I think anyone
There's
wears
no
sindoor
oppression
looks
to
silly.
me. No, look, there is a cultural context within which something can be. I have no clue what the root of sindoor is, how it started. But it is not very different from burqa. I'm sorry. Burqa is stopping you from showing your face to the whole world because you may be so attractive
was
to a
very-
woman.
No, but if a
Carefully
person's
picked.
wearing
And I
out of
think it's
choice,
just-
then you can strip it of context. No,
Of course, that is different. That then becomes a political symbol and all that. But I don't
it's still a
think.
symbol of. Anyway, Anand, why do you have a last word on this? Then we
Not
move on.
last one, but I think we have 70 letters. So, what I'm saying that deterministic, like conspiracy theories that this was put it like this, but I think there is also a cultural argument that aesthetically it cannot be equated with other patriarchal symbols. Also, the other argument is that it has been internalized as non-oppressive or not as a marker of patriarchy, but I think it is not, first of all, enforced in the same way. And its nature is changing now. Less women apply it, and those who apply it not under any kind of supervision that you have to do it, and so many women find it very aesthetically appealing also. So,
As do they find burqa?
no.
Why no? Why one yes says others no? We had a colleague. We had a one sec. Let's be very clear. Okay, I agree with everything you're saying, but one thing I completely disagree with. हम करें तो रासलिया, तुम करो तो character. There was our colleague here, young girl, who I asked her, why do you wear a burqa? Because I have a very liberal. I was just curious. She says I wear it as out of choice. My parents. One sec, let me finish what I'm saying. My parents have not forced me. In fact, no one does. I wear it because I think I must. So she's doing it out of choice. What my problem is, you're saying sindoor out of choice is aesthetic, burqa out of choice is not aesthetic. That can also be aesthetic. No? I mean,
I'm saying the root of something, and I'm also saying that, come on, the the imposition of burqa is way wider in terms of a social context. A lot of women actually all over the world don't want to wear
The problem
it.
is we are picking and choosing what we think is worse. If you're
Yeah.
saying that the
Nothing is
sindoor-
worse
I
or
am
not
not
worse. I
saying
am not even worried about
Mangalsutra is a marker that a woman is married.
I am-
If the men do not have an equivalent of the same thing, then obviously it is a symbol.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether or not people now use it for
What-
choice, whether or not they're not forced to do it or coerced to do it,
Hmm.
it is something that they do because it is their marker of being
No,
married.
we are
It
not
started that
opposing
way,
why
it's
they
that way.
picked it up.
No,
But
what
it
I
is a
am
symbol of-
saying is that I didn't say no. For negating that argument, I am saying that if a burqa or a sindoor for somebody is a statement of someone's cultural personality and he is happy to do that, so we should not be telling that, look, you are not very means politically aware, you are not conscious of your rights, I will make you happy. You
No
don't
one's
do
saying
it.
that.
To
I
me,
don't
it is
think anyone's
simple.
saying
Look,
that.
yeah.
No one is saying
But who's saying that?
No.
Are you no, let's be clear. What are we doing here? We are discussing. Someone said it is a mark. It's very, what you're saying is very different from discussing something conceptually to someone saying stop wearing the sindoor. Those are two
to
different
me,
things.
to put it very simply, for me, sindoor is an extension of a makeup that Hindu married women do. You put bindi, you put red lipstick, you put jewelry, you put a thing in the middle of your mang which is red. Now, men will not put a lipstick, they'll not put a bindi, they'll not wear earrings, and they won't
It
do
depends
this.
on.
But to me,
depends
this
on which
makeup or
age.
this exterior thing is not. It's not patriarchy. It's a culture. There's a cultural context to why women dress up a certain way, and that's it.
You can't
But-
equate lipstick with the.
Why? It's the same red thing.
But I'm just
Alta.
saying-
What about
you
alta on
might-
your hands?
You might, but all I'm saying is, all of you who are in the Gen Z zone, you can write in to podcast@newslaundry.com and please correct auntie here that men would not wear sindoor, men would not wear bindi. I don't know which men you will hang out with, but the men I hang out with wear bindi, they wear sarees, they wear sindoor also.
I'm pretty
Aunties
sure
in
you're
our
not-
80s and 90s. I'm 2025. Just saying.
Yeah, Rabna, you have no escape to this, so you found some other route. to like-
I escaped from what?
From this, that it's essentially makeup. How is makeup?
It's
I mean,
not-
then we need to just get into the
it's
whole
not-
thing
you're
of why
saying
is
it-
makeup patriarchy.
Yeah, you can.
You're saying it's makeup as if it's fact. That is not fact. It is something that you only wear if you are married to show
Yeah,
that you are
it's-
married. How
Yeah,
is
so
that
married
makeup?
women have a certain way of
I can
dressing
wear
up and
lipstick
that's it.
whether I'm married or not. If I wear a sindoor on my head and then say, yeah, but I'm doing
Yeah, I
it, I'm
don't
not married
think-
yet, but I'm just wearing it for fun, for makeup, it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
It's
like
the
that.
way married women dressed up. I think it's very different from anything else.
ठीक है.
And you may find it patriarchal, but I don't think in its essence it stems from patriarchy.
Okay, that we'll have to.
I mean,
get
that way
some
even marriage
historian.
is patriarchy then. Yeah, why are women supposed to do X, Y, Z?
Sure.
It is
I don't think
patriarchal.
so.
I think one can make that point. I don't think it's a completely irrational point to make.
Yeah.
You see, that way even, of course it can be.
I think everything is patriarchy. Then nothing's patriarchy if everything's patriarchy.
मेरी line मत कर, ठीक है.
Manisha is sad.
Give me water, please,
Okay.
after this. Okay, Salman says, we've often talked about unsustainability of the TV media's divisive, hate-mongering, war-mongering antics. You think they've finally crossed the line, even the government will not tolerate, with the way they've peddled fake news, misinformation since Pahalgam and the subsequent fighting between India and Pakistan? I don't think the government will not tolerate. I think they will be tolerated and
So-
others will go to jail.
Quickly, Salman, actually there is a provision in the Cable Television Act, whatever it's called, I'll pull it up and quote it at some point, where there is a provision that your channel can be taken down if you cause hostilities or mistrust between friendly countries. And Pakistan is listed as a friendly country, by the way, at least back then it was. And forget Pakistan, Iran, what we said about America. You know, Arnab's talking about Uncle Sam. So if the government wants, they have the legal means and the provisions in place to shut down these channels on a very specific clause. But no, don't hold your breath.
Atin says, hello NL team. Apart from NL, the only other news app on my phone is Indian Express. And in the recent past, I've noticed multiple slips or a changing of stance in Express's reporting. Example, on the hands-off protest, the reporter wrote, the liberal protesters, which felt diminishing. The protesters, definitely not all, might have had a liberal outlook, but to brand them as liberal protesters seemed to be an effort to chip at their credibility and stance. What was the hands-off protest? Sorry, I don't
Even I
recollect.
don't know. What are the hands of protest, by the way? I'm clearly out.
Second, on follow-up on Kiran Bedi's story, NL had mentioned as an online portal, not even online. Express had mentioned us as an online portal, not even online news portal, or better yet, News Laundry. But they did say the News Minute. So this happens when often the two of us work together on a story. Some people pick News Laundry, some people pick News Minute. Very few say News Laundry and News Minute.
But also many people will go out of their way to try and avoid naming you altogether, which I find very petty thing that
Yeah.
the media keeps
A lot of people avoid naming us specifically.
Third, in the reporting on Sindoor, Colonel Qureshi's first name was written as Sophia, but her name is Sophia with
As
an F.
F.
It's not with a PH. But this, I guess, is a mistake. I don't know if it's a
Yeah.
stance issue.
Hmm.
These are what I can currently think of, but there have been many slippages that perhaps need a
So
laundry.
The hands-off protests were organized across 50 US states against Trump and Musk.
I see.
That's the one.
recollect.
And they were liberal protesters.
Which is okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with calling them liberal. Doesn't chip away at their credentials. Liberals will only protest against them. Who else will?
Though,
Yeah,
I think,
also because it was organized by
Democrats.
like labor unions and stuff. So I think they were very specifically.
well, I think
Progressive groups.
after what Trump has done now, I think anyone with half a brain will protest against him. You don't have to be liberal. But I'm just saying,
But on ground.
like as that meme goes where who was that president who says you made me sell my peanut farm?
Was it
Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter, famously, he was made to sell his peanut farm because there was a conflict of interest because of his peanut farm and him being president. So now there's this meme going around, you made me sell my peanut farm, and this guy's doing Bitcoin, shitcoin, pata nahi kya kya coin. So I think anyone with half a brain would protest against Trump today.
Harkirat Kaur says, hello NL team. It was infuriating to see Ranveer Allahbadia on Piers Morgan's show. He appeared unprepared, holding pictures, hoping for a dramatic Bollywood-style moment. When the Pakistani panelists mocked him over the joke, controversy and pro-government podcast guest, he had no comeback. I understand not wanting to deflect, but this panelist is the hope of TPE. A vocal critic of the Pakistani establishment who had called out their army's historic propaganda and lies. Why not?
He is this podcast called Pakistan Experience.
Okay. Oh, right. I've been on that podcast.
Huh.
Why not use it against them? Watching Ranveer do this signature head shake, this time with a frown, while Barkha tried to articulate India's stance was cringeworthy. Honestly, even Barkha looked tired, cornered, and did not counter the narrative effectively. But at least she had her facts right. I understand our government's anti-minority rhetoric makes it hard to argue for our diversity, but this is just painful to watch. Don't we have anybody in the country to get our story to the world? What I wouldn't have given to see Shardur or Manisha on the panel. Apologies for the rant. But Piers Morgan's also not such a serious show. I think we're also taking the whole show too seriously, as if like the world is looking at it to understand India. I mean, if it was Christian Amanpour, I'd still understand, but he's also like one Britain's got, yeah. And I don't think he has much credibility, right? It's not like people
He has a lot
will
of
take it
audience,
serious. He has
basically.
audience, but
He's a complete idiot, but also people
Yeah.
are a little more sympathetic towards him now because
How would you
he's
compare,
said
like-
slightly sensible things on Palestine. That's it.
who would he be
Like-
comparable to in India?
If Sohail
Oh,
Seth were to
God.
start a show.
Then
Yeah, I think that's...
Who starts the show?
If Sohail Seth would start a show, that would be Piers Morgan. You know, he
Yeah.
paltos when convenient. And except the Piers Morgan's probably slightly better read and more camera friendly than Sohail, who'd be quite difficult to watch.
Bhargav says, Dear NL team, I really enjoyed Hafta 528 and the discussion with Amit Verma on tariffs and protectionism. To expand this conversation, I'd love to suggest Ha Jung Chang as a guest. Chang, a leading heterodox economist, challenges free markets orthodoxy in books like Kicking Away the Ladder, Bad Samaritans, and 23 Things They Don't Tell You About Capitalism. His work argues that today's richest nations use protectionism to grow and critiques globalized capitalism impact on developing economies. He's warm, affable communicator who simplifies complex ideas, making him a fantastic fit for Hafta. Well, we should really get him. I've seen him appear even on small podcasts, so he might be opening. तुमने हमारा ऐसे वो भी कर दिया. उसी line में he said, small में भी जाता है तो there's a chance that you may get him. We are very big. Anyway.
We are very big.
A conversation with him could provide fresh perspectives on economic policy, trade, and India's development path. Great. We must get
Yes.
him on board if he agrees.
Thank you. I've taken his
Very
name.
nice. Perry Sai Teja says, respected panel, looking at the high-handedness displayed by politicians and their gunda followers over Kunal Kamra's comedy or anyone else's has raised a stink I'm unable to escape. I was watching a video a few weeks back of Andre Schultz and other comedians in US reacting to what had happened to Samay Beer Biceps, and the manner in which they were commenting on the state of freedom of speech in this country led me to lower my head in shame. This is the perception that every act of suppression is creating in the minds of discerning individuals. In fact, I suggest one must let this issue not die as part of news cycle but challenge these bullies. I request you to kindly host Kunal Kamra. It's a special...
So that's already done and you
yeah.
watched it, Perry. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Method Man says, I know you get pushback, But can we have more editors' roundtable style discussions like last time? It wasn't tied to current affairs and allowed for deeper, more meaningful conversation and even some disagreement. Would love to see Supriya or Hartosh join and Anand as an honorary member, if only to roll his eyes. I especially appreciated it because I've tried to provoke discussions on patriotism, nationalism in earlier letters with little luck. Deserves attention. What actually binds Indians together? Is it transactional, accidental, cultural? I tried making a list. Mangoes, monsoon, caste, classical music. Not exactly a sturdy basis of nationhood. I lean towards Manisha, Dhanya and Anand's view. If it's about shared values, heretics get punished. Without shared values though, why should we act for one another? Yet, if India were to break up, it'll likely end in bloodshed. The paradox is worth unpacking.
Why would it end in bloodshed, do you think?
Because there'll be civil war, I'm guessing.
Too much diversity. But which roundtable is he talking about?
You guys had Seema on and from The Wire.
I see
Dhanya,
that.
me, you and Seema.
I see. So, I just on what keeps us together, I think is habit. Yeah, you can't list it.
That's the
It's
greatest
just
reasons why marriages last for long.
It's just habit. You're just so used to. You just got to
Yeah.
make India together long enough, and then it's just uncomfortable or inconvenient to not be Indian.
Also, you've been told for like 70 or 80 years that you're a union of states, unity and diversity.
And that is actually the most effective way of doing it, which is fine.
Yeah. So-
Everything is a habit.
No, so I think that's what you're saying, right? That it's too radical to question because this is just how it is.
Yeah,
So-
exactly.
I'd like to request NL to consider for their next NL Sena the omnipresent private healthcare system from GPs to hospitals in India, perhaps even pharmacies, as I think this is all one big system and each cannot thrive without the other. From overprescriptions of medicines in general care to private hospitals advising surgeries as the one and only way to any problem at all, totally avoidable and unnecessary surgeries in most cases like replacing knee, removing uterus, bypass, angioplasty, stents. There is just no intent of prevention of illness in these systems, only cure and cure only through means of medicines or surgery. No GP has the general knowledge of nutrition or physical fitness, so to advise their patient, but simply writing down prescriptions of medicines ending up in medicine subscriptions and families. Absolutely no regard to people's pockets. In fact, I think you had made this point that one of the reasons why Ayurveda also, or Unani, or any of these alternate systems have the pull that they do in India because of
Affordability.
this lack of trust that maybe when you go to a hospital, you will just be told to do something which you don't really need, but you'll be told because they want to make money.
Yeah, but then what happens is that there are such preventable things where an intervention is the only way forward
Yeah.
and you can live a great quality of life after that, but people will still not do it because they're convinced that instead we will do Ayurveda or homeopathy or whatever. And then I'm saying so I belong to a lot of these groups on Facebook and Instagram and whatever where you look for support after, say, hip replacements and stuff. And the number of Indians there who are just refusing to get things done because they're like, no, it's been 15 years. I'm dying of pain every day, but
I will not
I
do
shouldn't
that.
get an operation. I should only, follow this hopeful path that maybe this powder will cure me. It's not going to, guys. So I will say though, but there is a horrific overprescription of antibiotics. I know every single time my parents go to the doctor, even if it's only like have a cold or whatever for a couple of days, but immediately they're given antibiotics. They're taking them several times a year, and I find that very alarming. So
The approach is not preventive at all. Because say, for example, if I get my test done, if say DEXA test is done, they don't tell me, I mean, what is this test for? What have they found? They'll simply give me a tablet. Take this tablet, but they don't explain. So there is no prevention. So for prevention, you have to, look somewhere else, not to this.
There was this podcast I'd heard a while ago. It was an NPR podcast. And of course, I keep quoting podcasts. It's a very interesting incentive system for doctors. They said doctors, the financial incentive is the more frequently you come to them, the more money they make. The way to actually completely reverse this is, it's like a subscription. You buy a subscription to a doctor. Each time you have to go to the doctor, you get a discount on your next subscription. So basically, the disincentive is that the doctor does not make money each time he prescribes or you're unwell. So therefore, he will only give you advice that prevents you from coming to him for illness, which is an interesting take. But yeah, that's the only...
Simar says, I'm a big fan of NL Hafta. It's my weekly source of news from India. I was recently hearing Nikhil Kamat's What the Fuck is Policing episode and learned
What
that
the fuck नहीं, what the hell?
Sorry, what the hell?
गंदी जुबान, कैसी
What the hell?
संस्कृति. अभी वो बात कर रही थी सिंदूर और पता नहीं पायजेब की, और अब देखो what the hell को what the fuck is sir क्या Sir.
Manisha,
So
throw
your
your mic at
stereotypes
him.
about women must really change. Sindoor wali woman can say fuck. Anyway, Nikhil Kamat's What the Hell is policing episode and
That's the
learned.
actual name of his
Yeah,
podcast?
what the hell? This one is actually a very good episode. Even I've heard a lot about it.
No,
He's
sorry, that's
discussed
the actual name of his podcast.
what the hell. So it's basically the policing change. So what the hell is whatever.
Acha, like, let's talk
influencer
about
economy.
basically.
Yeah. What the hell is like, let's talk about exactly. This episode.
Also, but I think you're right, Manisha. I think it was called What the Fuck Is Not
I think
What
so.
the Hell.
Maybe he
Yeah,
changed it.
I feel like he censored it in this letter.
Maybe after. Oh yeah.
Mhm.
I think it's what the fuck. Just check. Anyway.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It is. It's WTF only.
WTF policing episode and learned that the traffic police in Bengaluru have body cams. I wonder if police across India also use them, and if so, how are extrajudicial killings still happening? I would be really curious to see a report on how technology like body cams, CCTVs and other tools can help keep the police more accountable. I feel it would fit well with your impunity of Indian police services. P.S. Thanks. Shout out to Manisha. I value her perspective on Hafta and nuisance. Thank you.
I can answer this because I had looked it up a little while ago because India doesn't use body cams. I think in Delhi, after Nirbhaya, they put some money aside for the Delhi cops to get body cams. But then I think within a year, they stopped working and then they just never replaced them. Bangalore has a few thousand, but
Yeah.
also it is not some sort of systemic sort
There's a
of
pilot
usage of
project
it.
I read about in Bangalore.
Yeah, and so everyone says, the thing is that we don't have any money, but also I think there are priorities as to there's so many things wrong with the policing system that getting body cams is very, very low on their list. Because yes, it is, I think, quite widely studied in the West and it is an excellent tool for accountability.
Aditya says, hello team, over the last years, the job outlook in IT sector has been pretty bleak with companies either putting a freeze on new hirings or laying off employees at large scale. There are various factors at play. I believe you people should do one LTA about it where you can bring subject experts for discussion who can explain the nuances and intricacies of the issue and how the freshers can navigate this tricky terrain. Yeah, actually I think quite a few reports also came up. The placements were very poor this time. Very low
Yeah, no.
salaries, yeah. Arif Siddiqui says, Dear NL team, I religiously watch Hafta, which is always very engaging, a great discourse. However, I feel there's a want of discussion on scientific topics that directly or indirectly impact our society. India in general is greatly uneducated on this front. We grapple with a plethora of issues such as antibiotic abuse, lack of vaccination despite cervical cancer being the second most frequent cancer in Indian women, and much of it is attributed to human papilloma virus. The chronic effect of perpetual exposure to noise pollution on mental physiological health. The list is exhaustive. It would be great if occasionally Hafta could also broach these issues. Hopefully, Hafta audience will be a source of further public awareness. Since I have a considerably decent experience in cancer research, I'll be more than happy to contribute with background information. Great.
Yeah, only thing is such, hyper expertise subjects are always, if you notice, not just in case of cancer and medicine and others also, like AI, like, the technical aspects of it. It's just difficult to do a project or a news report around that for a variety of reasons. But yeah, maybe we should do more of that. But we had tried the science desk. It's just very difficult to make that work. The cost-benefit analysis, the amount of time it takes and the expertise required don't add up when it comes to a high-impact story on governance. So that's the only reason.
Sheetal says, Dear NL team, I'm a subscriber to both NL and TNM YouTube channels. Regularly watch NL Hafta and South Central. Both are essential parts of my weekly routine. The efforts by both teams are commendable. Following up on the startup discussion in the previous Hafta, I want to highlight Clappingo. She's made a couple of allegations against this edtech platform that we cannot verify, so we won't read it out. But basically, she's talked
And they
about how
owe
it
her
hasn't
money,
worked.
she says.
Yeah. So, unreliability of... Anonymous says, a suggestion for the Right to Breathe campaign. What if it becomes mandatory for every student to plant a tree every year of their schooling and they have to ensure that the tree exists for 10 years till they pass out of school? They should be graded on the existence of the trees. This is poor children. Like, they don't have enough. I'm very against this.
But I mean...
This will educate the future generations on trees and their importance. Also, if people can make money of live trees, they would have higher chances of survival. An entire ecosystem will be created around providing this facility for school kids. Just one thing, I don't think pollution is something that poor school kids should be burdened with fixing. This is really like you have to ask questions of our governments. Various governments and central government, the most important.
Also, I mean,
Yeah.
in cities like Kolkata, Delhi, and Bombay, there's so many kids. If everybody has to plant one tree, then there's just not enough space for so many trees in these cities. But using
In any case, in 1 billion years, life will be not be on Earth. So
Yeah. But we are
We'll
going to be
all
alive,
be
no?
dead.
no, but by then Trump and his progeny, his
Proteges.
progeny would have found a way to
but
a place.
other planets will also, because the report says now
The
it's
sun
not
will
a
be-
new sun's luminosity.
Yeah, but I'm saying it will be outside the
increase.
solar system. No, we
so-
don't have to be in the solar system. No, but on this, there is one case study, and I've mentioned this several times, where Sahasradhara and surrounding areas in the 80s had become bald because of mining, and they are lush green, and that was done purely by the schools of Dehradun. For 10 years, every school in Dehradun had to go for 2 days and plant trees there. And today you see that is one of the most successful reforestation that happened anywhere in the country. It was done by school kids.
Safwan says, Hi NL team, great fan of Hafta. Abhinandan made a passing reference in one of the Haftas to Radha Swami Satsang and Ranbaxy connection. Hope to see a detailed story on this premise. It's been reported on, no?
Yeah,
But-
Safwan, this has been reported
I got
on.
this done in DNA. We did a series on it. Let me just locate and
Yeah, but this story has been done a while ago. In fact, when this whole drama was unfolding, the role of that time the head of Satsang and his son-in-law or son or something.
Shivendra Singh.
No, Shivinder Singh to Ranveer wala tha na. The Radha Swami Satsang Vyas. Enough stories have been done on this. I mean, we don't have anything new, but if we do, we'll definitely report it.
It's an old story, no?
Yeah.
Few years back.
Yeah. Now, Abraham has written 3 letters. The first one pertains to what we should do with Hafta letters. So that we've already decided, so I won't read it.
Right.
The second one is about the Outlook story that we put out and has a suggestion that after 30 years of internet, it's evident that websites are not the optimal platform for reading news. Infinite scroll, web page format are not conducive to absorbing in-depth news stories. Unfair to compare well-researched stories by NL with sensationalist outlets like Op India and outdated giants like NDTV. Reflected by NL's own panel, preferences for reading newspapers as a primary news source, I propose curating news stories and graphics in a digital magazine format.
Right. Okay. So basically, like, okay, point taken. Raman sir has been suggesting that for a very long
No,
time.
we tried it. Remember, Raman sir? We brought out some 2-3 issues. But like it is very, very time consuming. Also, I think in theory it sounds great, but I don't know if people actually.
Also, look, we can't. People do read on the web. I think we
They
should
do.
stop thinking that. Few
It's
may
an
want.
entire thing of, you're not a journalist until you see your name in print, your byline or whatever. No,
No, but I think that's also a question
it's
of
a very.
habit. I just
Yeah.
need to read a newspaper. I don't think the
Gen Z
Yeah.
people do.
Gen Z people do.
Or even people your age, a lot of them do consume
lot of
on this.
people
So
do.
it's just that you are in the business of news, so you want to read those newspapers.
Or
But a lot of
aadat hai, yaar. It is
हाँ,
just a
आदत हो
habit.
I consume newspaper as well as
I do both, but I have to consume the newspaper.
newspaper
I can't
is-
not read the newspaper.
morning. Yes,
Like although we have a subscription for the Indian Express, I only read the paper in the paper
same
format.
here. Same here.
Anish says that regarding air pollution, I will reach out again once I review the literature a bit more and analyze the issue from research. I think he'd written to us about wanting to contribute and we'd written
Yeah.
back. I believe a well-explained popular science piece on the study might be valuable, which is...
No, so great. We look forward to this, Anish. Whenever it's ready, do mail it. Anything in this zone is something we are specifically looking for, especially from area experts such as yourself.
Sajeev says, this is Sajeev from a tiny part of Kerala. I think India is a country of misplaced priorities. To mention a few examples, no focus on improving primary health and education. Instead of uniting the country based on common development goals, we find ways of dividing people based on useless issues. No focus on providing primary needs such as clean air, drinking water, improving cleanliness in public spaces. Bribing citizens with cash for votes instead of providing jobs that can improve quality of life of fellow citizens. I can go on and on. Can Newslaundry come up with a list of misplaced priorities that this country is pursuing? This could help the government and correct its course. Government has enough advice on this?
I mean,
it
if
can
you-
correct course if it
Now,
wants
if you were
to.
to ask me, the one place which would have multiple positive impacts is real estate.
What to do with it?
Government
Hmm?
residences, the real estate they occupy, the resources you can create just by leasing those out, renting those out. Forget others. Just take the 4 metros, or just take Lutyens. You can raise probably 5 lakh crore. You can probably fund a full healthcare program for the whole country on that. You can fund grain for that. I mean, but no one's going to do that because, and I can tell you this from very decent politicians I have interacted with down the ages in the last decade.
Railway, by
They
the
say,
way,
boss, ye wala, the railway to theek hai. You can say railway serving the country. They're saying, boss, I want to remain MP because ye ghar mujhe aur kahin nahi milega. For that house, people sell their souls. So, if you were to just want to resource, it is real estate provided to MPs, MLAs and ministers, sorry. MLAs are not
in a
provided.
different context, what I'm trying to say that railway is the biggest
Landowner.
real estate.
Yeah.
Now comes general feedback on Hafta and our team. Vineet says, I've been wondering lately, has News Laundry become a bit of an echo chamber? It feels like a small but vocal subscriber base is shaping coverage too much. And there's been a shift towards more sensationalist takes, believe it or not, especially when calling out media outlets and the state. The content that gets the most traction seems to be the loudest in a way that is comparable to legacy media. Have we done any internal research on what content we're pushing, the amount of traction it's getting, and from what spectrum of our subscribers? Truly independent journalism comes from understanding these nuances, I believe. Can we also consider a model like the Guardian Scott Trust? A board with diverse ideological voices could help ensure balance. That said, I love your work. And forever grateful to Raman sir. You once recommended Huberman podcast on metabolism and health, and it truly saved my life.
Arre wah.
Keep up the great work, but please be mindful of your echo chamber.
So, Vineet, on the bit on the structure, well, News Laundry is working on a very interesting structure that will have certain elements of Guardian's Trust. But on the other stuff, I can tell you with confidence, none of our reportage is pushed by what leads to more subscription because there is no sensible connections that we have been able to establish. And we don't have that kind of data because you get this story karke ye subscription goes up. That there is no such kya kehte hai, causation and correlation. We don't even have data that we can study to figure if that happens.
And I remember when I joined 7 years ago, the first thing you said, ki we are not into this number game.
Correct.
So
we really don't know
wanted
what
good field stories.
pushes subscription, what doesn't. In fact, we were discussing today. Sometimes we have no idea why suddenly subscriptions go up. Then Chitran says, no, it is because people's 6 monthly subscription has expired. They've all subscribed again. I was like, dude, they should be expiring evenly over the year. Why are they all expiring in 1 month?
1 month.
But we don't know, dude.
Anish says, hi, big fan of your work. Keep it up. In the last Hafta, the discussion on 3-language rule in NEP and Tamil Nadu's opposition was shallow. Jayashree and Shabir wrongly claimed Hindi threatens regional languages, ignoring states like Maharashtra, Gujarat, the Northeast, where Hindi coexists without harm. Read their literature, observe their growth with the passage of time. The real issue is TN isn't Hindi. It's resistance to any language other than Tamil. Unlike other South Indian states, TN exhibits a superiority complex towards other cultures and languages. Their fear of Hindi is exaggerated. Parents can choose any third language. No one discusses how TN opposes even other South Indian languages. I agree Sanskrit is a waste and North Indian states should pick a regional language instead. Please analyze such issues deeply instead of a superficial take. The real divide isn't just North-South, but South-South. No offense meant, just disappointed in the discussion. ATB. What does ATB mean?
All the best.
Oh.
Jayashree, you have any take on that since it's addressed to you?
I am struggling to remember what I said on that episode, but I also think I did have data specifically on Marathi and Gujarati and so on. So it isn't just that I'm not pulling this out of a hat. There was sort of precedence as to what languages work with respect to Hindi. Also, I think, isn't it Maharashtra that has now said they're going to have a 3-language policy, but one of the languages will be Hindi, even though it's not supposed to be sort of mandated. So I think that's the thing. You can say Tamil Nadu has a superiority complex, probably true. But the fight here isn't just that, oh my God, we're going to push against this just because we want to do it and we think Tamil is better than everything else. The fight against it is that there is set precedents on how Hindi is used to dominate and how the central government is using it as a tool. And I think it's been explained very articulately and very well by people who are much more well-read than I am. So it's not just that we're opposing for the sake of it, we're opposing because there is a reason to do it.
We have one.
And there is no data to prove the alternative, which is there is no data to say that, well, if Tamil people go to North Indian states, they are struggling. There is none of that. I mean,
Yeah,
that
I think
employment
that-
opportunities are
yeah.
few and far in between.
I don't think
mean,
that's true at all. But
so
we have only
it's,
one primary Hindi speaker here. Do you have any views on this letter? On NEP of Hindi being mandatory or not mandatory or third language? What do you think?
No, I am not.
But just one thing, Anish, I mean, again, I don't know why you've included Hindi integration in the Northeast. I don't know if you've been there, and I don't know, have you done this on the basis of data, but if you go purely by traveling there, Hindi is as far away from many states in the Northeast as it is from a small village in Tamil Nadu, which means they understand no Hindi. So I don't know how well entrenched, how...
Does he mean the existence of Hindi in schools as a language?
I don't know. It
Could
says...
it be that?
In curriculum.
In curriculum, I
No.
think.
And I will also say that these are very elite discussions. I mean, when you talk to actual migrant laborers who are the ones who are forced to sort of travel state to state for work, they are the ones who travel state to state and they learn the language because they have to. They're not really given a choice. They're not allowed to say, well, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do something else. So, I don't know. All this is very but I just think that I understand when people tell me that they think that it is a question of superiority and of Tamil being better, but it is absolutely not about those 2 points.
And
Those are not
and
at
you
all
can't
important.
also ignore that it has been a political tool. the
Yeah,
whole
it's
Hindi
an
thing.
integral part of
Yeah.
politics there and identity. Karthik says, hi team, regular listener of NL Hafta since 2015. I want to share a few thoughts on the issue of language. I'm from Andhra Pradesh, a state where there's least political opposition to Hindi, which is ironic since Andhra was formed out of a political movement of Telugu speakers. My Hindi is okayish, but living in Bangalore, I feel there are practical reasons to learn it. Despite being in the south, my gated community, the third in 6 years, celebrates festivals, North Indian style, with Bollywood flair. Friends in Hyderabad echo this. My parents feel out of place while visiting, but they met more South Indian friends in the US. I want my son to learn Hindi to make friends and blend in. Given the demographic trend, it seems inevitable. Plus, speaking a Desi language is better for cultural exchanges. And let's be honest, it's handy for workplace gossip abroad. Would love to know your views.
I mean, I don't think it's unique to Hindi. Knowing any other language is great. I mean, if you knew Bengali in the 90s, you'd do much better as an advertising person or a producer. Because only Bengali speakers would be in the gossip. Because every creative director was Bengali. They dominated advertising. So, of course, knowing French is great. Knowing Spanish is great.
Yeah.
And it's not unique to Hindi. But if you know unique, you have a better chance in the world. That I don't agree. Knowing any language, depending on the context, can give you plus points. Yeah.
Also, I think when migrants travel and learn a language, I don't think that's in contention because they will learn newer languages. They will learn other things. I mean, that kind of fluidity is what makes languages live longer than any other thing. But imposition is something else. Like curriculum
Yeah.
stuff is something different from you wanting to learn Hindi because you happen to be in a place where there are more Hindi speakers.
Yes.
And that's part of the game. Soma Shekhar says, great work. Wondering if the 660 crore is spent on science and tech education rather than on Sanskrit. If Hindi is for cultural reasons, then how are politicians comfortable with English? Not anymore, though. I think even like the very Latvians type make it a point to speak, especially who crossed over to BJP. Like RPN Singh, for example, if you see him speak now very cliched Hindi, it's really funny. Seems very out of place. Anyway, so Bhakt Mandli around me blames Ukraine for the war. How can they be culprit in this war? Can you have an episode to walk through why certain number of producers, journalists and other team members are needed to cover a story? Often the supporting crew doesn't get due recognition because news consumers like me don't know what happens in the background. More than the news, I love NLTNM bringing their varied views on a news event. World is not black and white and your views are what adds value to a news story.
Thanks, Som. Just on your second piece, I've recommended a podcast in the past. I think it was Radio Open Source, which had, in my view, a very good take on the Ukrainian war. I mean, I don't think Bhakt Mandli blaming Ukraine may be a little ridiculous, but there was I don't have a very firm position, but there's a very well-made argument that NATO has to take as much blame as Russia for the war. Historical context cannot be stripped.
Yeah.
And Ukraine is a very small player in that. And I don't think it was a completely unreasonable position.
Vishnu says, hi team, Trump withholding federal funding reminds me of what the Indian Union government is doing with language laws. Politically, the US is still catching up to India's anti-democratic legacy. We've had casteism long before they had racism and Nazis. This isn't just about the language, it's about Hindi, even if not openly stated. The one nation, one language, one leader idea reeks of fascism. I don't use the F word lightly, but it fits here. Sanskrit, now aggressively promoted, has casteist history. It was once a language reserved for the elite, and oppressed caste members were punished, even killed for trying to learn it. Why not uplift languages pushed to the brink by Hindi imposition instead? All languages have value, but Sanskrit was systemically used to uphold caste hierarchies. Its revival is troubling when other languages still struggle for recognition. Northern Indians have learned southern languages out of need, not imposition. That's how linguistic respect should work.
That's
Point
a fact, though. I mean, it was a very elite language.
Sure.
And therefore very casteist in the way it was used.
You want to now read the rest, Jayashree?
Yep. So Adnan Noor Hassan Sheikh says, hello, I'm an India qualified lawyer working globally. Firstly, you guys do a great job, whether it's Tiffany, Hafta, Nuisance, your interviews. I lived in London for 4 years and stayed connected to India through you. Second, I'm dumbfounded that when the AAP lost Delhi, no one from Yogendra Yadav to Raju Parlikar to YouTube journalists addressed voter fraud. Media framed it as AAP's failure, ignoring that they raised the same concerns as the Congress. Maybe this deserves coverage. Thirdly, South Central is fantastic. A similar project for the Northeast would be amazing. And fourth, Professor Ulhas Bapat, a senior constitutional lawyer, should be on your show. Best of luck.
Okay, I'll make a note of his name as well. Thank you, Adnan.
So Mohi has written 2 letters. The first one is questions on subscription and payment. So I think we can forward that to our team and they can figure. The second letter says he wants to ask our stance on donations. Would it be possible to create an NGO arm for News Laundry where people can contribute funds? With 2024 financial year drawing to a close, I prefer to donate and claim it under Section 80G rather than giving my money to the government, where it'll end up in the pockets of legacy media in exchange for government ads and propaganda. So you can design the cause, but a few ideas could be CSR activities aimed at educating underprivileged communities about good news, or supporting more internships with fair stipends to ensure that this new form of journalism continues to thrive.
So just so you know, it was, I think we discussed this also, Reporters Collective, their 80G, which is what makes you tax exempt, status was taken away, and the government said that because journalism is not public interest. So yeah, it won't work because the government decides if you get a tax exemption. You can set up an NGO, but you will not get tax benefits unless the government thinks so. And while the government will give you tax exemption on many other things, on news they have made this statement in the case as well.
Yes.
AT says, as we continue searching for the best ways to handle emails, I suggest using AI to summarize them. We are doing
that AT
as we speak.
Much to Jayashree's chagrin.
I shake my
Chagrin.
fist at this. But yeah. Karthik says, Abhi, love and praise incoming. A long-time subscriber here. I love the work you guys are doing. But what keeps me glued is Abhinandan's viewpoints. His brash and unapologetic attitude in calling a spade, and the utter disgust for the current government. I understand the disdain and angst to live in a country which recently seems to be full of morons and not really be able to change anything.
Karthik, kya bol raha hai?
Your recent podcast with Kintu Parantu made me write this. Please continue being yourself. Keep hosting Hafta. Please bring back Garib Das.
Lakhu.
Yeah, we should do a Garib Das Lakhu sketch again. Manisha?
Absolutely.
Next is, again, Peri Sai Teja, who says, respected Abhinandan, interesting insight regarding reach of radio, why perhaps the government is not permitting news to be aired on FM. In the 21st century, with cheaper internet prices, podcasts could be an ideal substitute for radio. I wonder if a dedicated daily or multiple times a day news podcast by a credible news organization without the jingoism of TV news could be educational and impactful. Now, regarding the Campus Pay Crackdown documentary, there are other ways to get your word across than graffiti. If I want to pee in front of a VC office as a form of dissent, should I be allowed? I agree with Anand Vardhan's analysis of student politics on campus these days. Was he consulted before or while making the documentary?
No, the documentary was not made by Anand. It was made by the person who made the documentary.
No, he wasn't consulted.
He wasn't.
But also, that wall of democracy is a dedicated space for graffiti. So it's not
graffiti.
like they're going all over the campus.
Hmm.
That wall of democracy has been painted over. And comparing it to peeing in front of the VC's office is
Yeah,
like
very different, correct.
different
Yeah.
things.
Shishir says, hello. News has meaning because of the work your team does. I have a question related to the police impunity project. Can you walk us through the process followed for it? How does your team get related reports? How do you validate or authenticate these reports before arriving at conclusions?
That's a very big thing. But sir, briefly, if you can say that, how do you triangulate information, written FIRs, complaints?
I think also he's talking about like research reports on policing or something.
No, first, I mean, even before we suggested this for NL Sena, we first of all did a proper research, found cases in different states. We found which states has got the maximum cases of police atrocity. Then we picked up, because we can't do everything. So we picked up 4 or 5 such states. But even after that, we have found some very, brutal cases, say in a place like Rajasthan. So we're going to take that case also. So what, and when we pick up a case, then we go for every minute details, right from we reconstruct. So how the reconstruction will happen? The day incident happens, after that we reconstruct day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4.
And a lot of information is whatever documentary evidence you can get.
Yes.
Ashwin says, I've been a subscriber several years, became a TNM member a year back. Great work. I was wondering if Mehraj is in touch with NL at all. He'd have been a great panelist considering the latest Kashmir attack and the caste census discussion. He was a great voice previously on these topics. And for the tech team, anytime I have to pause and interview a video on the iPhone app and come back to it later, it refreshes, I lose the timestamp. So therefore, I prefer to watch it on YouTube or Spotify. Can you look into this? We
will just send that. I'm sending your comment right now to the tech team.
Next is Mehraj. We should bring him back as a panelist to talk about something. N747 says, Abhinandan South Central is performing better in discussions than you. The discussion on the Supreme Court ruling on the governor was way more deep and interesting than what was heard on Charcha or Hafta.
We shall communicate that to Dhanya. Thank you for supporting South Central, but we will try to make Hafta better. Thank you.
RS says, I know that I have, with my killjoy feminism, made some harsh comments about Abhinandan Sekri in past letters. But after sitting through this week's South Central with Mohandas Pai, I take it all back. Now that I know how bad it can be, I've become more appreciative of the Hafta host. Well done, Abhinandan. This is what it
RS,
takes.
I have
That's
no
all
idea
it
how to
needs.
react to the letter that now that I have listened to Mohandas Pai, Abhinandan isn't so bad.
Yeah.
This is
They
what...
should put that on a Valentine's Day card for you.
This is like India says we are not Pakistan. So that's how we should be happy. I don't know whether you were trying to insult me, but thank you anyway.
Venkat says, I cannot believe both Shardul and Jayashri brushed aside the Battle of Thermopylae as folklore in Hafta. It most definitely isn't. Top history podcasts like Empire, Restless History have tackled it in detail. The movie exaggerated it, as all movies do, but it isn't folklore. Okay, I'm sorry if I indicated it was folklore because I do know it was a real event. So, I did not mean to. Yuyutsu says, Hi Niku, what is your view on the interview of your friend Chetan Bhagat with Karan Thapar?
I'm not familiar with this. Chetan Bhagat interviewed Karan Thapar or Karan Thapar interviewed?
Maybe Karan would have, because Chetan Bhagat was giving a spree of interviews.
I haven't watched it, Yutsu. Sorry, I have no... I haven't watched it.
You are not a true friend, I think.
Yeah.
Madan says, in HCU Bulldozer video with Peacock voiceover is edited.
What is HCU?
That Hyderabad Central University. But yeah, there was an AI video that was going around with sounds of peacocks screaming.
Which I had made a note of in one of the haftas, saying that it was really horrific to see videos and like peacocks go. But I didn't know it was edited.
Oh, okay. That famous thing that got it. Oh, thank you for pointing that out.
Ibrahim says, the discussion on the Waqf bill was good. I'd like it if you could get interviews of multiple Muslim voices on the issue like Imran Pratapgari or Adib Ahmed. Plus, the photo of the Waqf board that was used by you and many other media outlets. It says in Urdu, Hyper Desh Waqf. I could not understand it until I saw the full photo, which says Madhya Pradesh Waqf Board. I think the
Oh.
decline of Urdu literacy in North India amongst all people is one of the reasons for the decline in civility and inter-community harmony. क्योंकि जिनको
सजा देनी
सजा-
थी उनको हम सजा रहे हैं. Z and J, basically saying the difference of that one pronunciation changes what you do with someone. Very beautifully written email, Ibrahim. Lovely. That is one of my biggest regrets in life, is after the fact that I did not learn Tamil, which is my biggest regret in life. My second biggest regret in life is that I did not learn Urdu, because it is
Not too
really
late.
beautiful. Not too
Time
late.
is there.
So, yeah, awful and awesome करने का time नहीं मिलता. You want me to learn 2 more languages.
Right. Next is
Perry Sai Teja, we've read 3 emails already, so this will have to wait for next time.
next is Akshay Shankar, who says, I've subscribed to NL for some time now. Just got done with Hafta 530, where listeners said Abhinandan is disliked as a host. I would like to thoroughly disagree. I find Abhinandan to be engaging, reasonable, and thoughtful. He goes out of his way to acknowledge his own privilege and consider someone else's viewpoint. Thankful you exist. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Akshay. Payment पहुंच जाएगी time पे.
Jessal says, adding something I thought was missed from the India-Pakistan Champions Trophy discussion. ICC awarded Pakistan hosting rights in 2021. So it was not designed to give a trophy to India because they lost 2023 World Cup, as JHD said. I said it as a joke. I did not mean it. But it was brought back in so India and Pakistan play each other again because of money. The BCCI has an effective veto power at the ICC because of the money it brings in. Now, the BCCI could have opposed ICC's decision to award hosting rights to Pakistan, citing security concerns, or it could have proposed a dual hosting arrangement. It's unclear why they didn't choose to do so, especially when the son of the Home Minister is the head of the BCCI, and the Home Ministry provides clearance to sports teams to visit Pakistan, as far as I know. In my opinion, waiting till the last minute not to send the team to Pakistan was done to embarrass Pakistan, which is petty.
But Jessel, on this, I mean, I think it's just a power move, because even while we refuse to play Pakistan or go to Pakistan to play certain cricket, certain other sports are happening. So it's this confused policy. It's not consistent. I mean, I have no view on it, actually.
Mrinal says, Abhinandan, okay, so I'll just say this is a 1,000-word letter, Mrinal, but here is a shortened version of it. Abhinandan rightly questioned whether privatization has alleviated poverty. The poverty line calculation seems flawed. In 2011-12, the Tendulkar Committee set it at 816 per month in rural areas and 1,000 rupees a month in urban areas. Now, if you adjust for inflation and gold price, the poverty line should be higher. This discrepancy suggests many are classified as non-poor even though they struggle financially. The government's inclusion of subsidies in income calculations may also artificially reduce poverty figures. Now, regarding globalization, while it has increased purchasing power parity, it hasn't necessarily reduced poverty. Many individuals are burdened with debt, leading to long-term economic harm. Competition in economies benefits everyone, but it must be fair. Unregulated markets lead to monopolies, exploitation, market manipulation, and privatization doesn't inherently lead to technological innovation. Private entities may excel in scaling and commercialization, but foundational innovations often stem from state-sponsored research. Opening core sectors like healthcare, education, energy to privatization may harm societal welfare. I agree with this.
Although Muna, I will say that I did not say that privatization has not alleviated poverty. I said that, of course, it's exaggerated, the benefits done, but I have also said that the only way to actually pull people out of poverty is by encouraging private capital. But privatization has a very different connotation. So, I mean, I just want to make that clear. I don't think there's any historical evidence of a country without promoting private enterprise and capital has been able to get people out of poverty unless it has an abundance of a resource that the world needs. Like Qatar has oil or Saudi has oil. Or even, I mean, even in my view, the reason USSR could stand up to America's capitalism for so long is because it was one of the second or third largest reserves of oil in the world. If it did not have oil, it would not be able to. So it's a little more complicated, but net, I think unless you have major judicial reform and institutions to address consumer, unfairness, privatization can do a lot more damage than we think.
Next letter is from Asha, who says, I appreciate the work you do. Your fearless journalism is essential in times when speaking sense is becoming difficult. I contributed to the Hindu Rashtra project for the following reasons. As a PhD student at IIT, I've seen many peers adopt rigid ideologies, calling themselves Sanatani and thinking of themselves as alpha males. Worryingly, these aren't the worst students, but some of the best. And their thinking is becoming increasingly narrow. I recall feeling uneasy back in 12th standard when the 2014 campaign was everywhere. While I acknowledged flaws in the previous government, I disliked how caste and religion became central at that time. But now, today, anyone questioning the dominant narrative is labeled a left-winger. News Laundry's independent journalism is critical. I deeply appreciate your commitment.
Thank you. Although I have still don't know it, I haven't heard this term used so much in all my life at all.
Which one?
Alpha male. I've only heard it in the last 2-3 years.
Really?
Yeah.
It's very old.
Yeah, like an
Was it-
alpha and a beta.
Was
Yeah,
it used
alpha
like
beta is
this?
very-
Alpha male, alpha male. I don't remember any discussions
Yeah,
about
like, see, romance novels have been using it for decades. Like,
Oh, really?
Milton Boons and all will all have, like, even the ones that, like, our mothers and grandmothers and whatever read will always talk about an alpha male,
So-
but now it's used very, like,
So they used to use the word alpha male?
yeah,
Okay.
he's the alpha.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Next is from Oscar, who says, this is on the Hafta conversation on Charlie Hebdo. Prophet Muhammad claimed to be a human. He was born, ate food, and died. But he's probably the most scrutinized, praised, and criticized person who walked the earth. His influence extends to modern life across the globe. Everyone has the freedom to accept or reject, disbelieve or believe, praise or criticize his teachings. Now, every instruction of the Prophet is law. Please nuance between instruction, recommendation, and practice without verbiage. In this context, a lie has serious world implications. For example, 72 virgins is a fabrication that's been amplified by the media, and people lost lives. Does creative freedom extend to fabrication, concoction, or lies in modern law? By definition, caricature or fiction is not authentic. Try European freedom to fact-check the Holocaust, or use accurate language for Palestine, or wear a scarf. Truth between the legs and fakes between the ears. Did Ramanji say this? Taking creative freedom with. I feel like I'm not understanding the last bit.
Even the last bit I'm not understanding, but as far
I don't
as
know if Raman ever said that.
yeah,
It's a very strange thing.
that's very
That doesn't sound like
Or
Raman.
Doesn't
maybe-
sound like him at all.
or maybe he is being ironic by saying I've taken creative liberty of assigning something.
Right.
I mean, Asghar, I don't know what is the overall point you're making, but if you're saying that, I mean, it seems to me on the Charlie Hebdo thing that no fabrication, whether you think it's fabrication, can be justified. Can murder be justified by that? And if someone wants to take that liberty, I mean, you can condemn them for it, but you can't murder them for it. So I don't know what the context is, but if the context is Charlie Hebdo, maybe everything you say is true, but for me, it has no value because nothing can justify killing 11 people. I don't care what they said. That's my view.
See, and it's undeniable that people tell wild lies, especially about Islam at this point of time. But end of the day, you can't murder. Let's see. Vaibhav says, thank you for reading my email. As expected, Abhinandan defended his position, saying there are no RSS sympathizers in the IAC except Kiran Bedi. I beg to differ. Subsequent behavior from Kejriwal and AAP during Shaheen Bagh protests and Delhi riots is evidence enough that RSS ideology seeped in and was probably always there long before IAC was formed. In fact, the overall formulation of the IAC movement of focusing on financial corruption was addressing mainly the middle and upper middle class of society, where RSS influence is widespread. This issue is close to my heart, so I've contributed a small sum to the Hindu Rashtra project. You guys are doing great work.
I mean, anyone has a view on this?
No, we've
So-
discussed it so much.
Yeah, but I'm just want to point out, Vaibhav, just look up the following. What is IAC? It's not a registered body. It was a movement. So, of course, I doubt I'll ever say that no one was part of IAC sympathizer was not a bit of RSS, because there is no way I can actually vouch for millions of people across the country. What I specifically said was PCRF, which is the secretariat that actually was the architect of this movement. And I was part of PCRF. In fact, I was the co-founder of PCRF, and I struck the checks for Anna's travels. In that secretariat, there was just one RSS sympathizer. And that I can say with 100% certainty. You can write 20 mails. That does not change. Everything else you saying could be true. But no one was thinking there'll be an aap then.
Next email is from Heihachi Mishima, who says, in a not so surprising development this week, Bal Nahendra embarked on a zoo hopping spree for Bal Ambani's pet project.
Very long
With the
ago.
usual-
Seems like
God,
almost like
Yeah.
Feels like a year ago, but
Yeah.
it wasn't. With the usual entourage of celebrity sycophants and cricketers cheering on the spectacle. This occurred amidst a backdrop of lakhs of crores being wiped off the stock market and the trade war ignited by the orange orangutan. Yet the public discourse remains fixated on freebies and the notion that farmers aren't taxed, conveniently overlooking the massive loan write-offs benefiting corporate giants. In the last 5 years alone, Indian banks have written off 7.26 lakh crores in bad loans, with only 64,526 crore rupees allocated to the agricultural sector. There's a stark disparity favoring corporate defaulters over struggling farmers. It's perplexing how much the media and finance sectors focus on taxing farmers while ignoring the evident collusion between government and corporates. Perhaps it's easier to target the vulnerable than to confront the powerful. So as the race to the bottom accelerates, it is crucial to question these priorities and demand accountability.
Fair enough.
Harnik says, in the mid-17th century, Guru Har Rai, the 7th Sikh Guru, was summoned by Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb to explain his support for Dara Shikoh during the War of Succession. Unable to attend personally due to an illness, Guru Har Rai sent his eldest son, Ram Rai, to represent him. During the meeting, Ram Rai altered a verse from the Adi Granth to avoid offending the emperor. This led to his excommunication from the Sikh community. Ram Rai then established a religious center in the Doon Valley, granted land by Raja Fateh Shah of Garhwal under Aurangzeb's patronage. This settlement, known as Ram Rai's Dera, is believed to have given Dehradun its name. The Guru Ram Rai Darbar Sahib, completed in 1707, features Indo-Islamic architecture reflecting the Mughal influence due to Ram Rai's relationship with Aurangzeb. Now, Aurangzeb's complex legacy includes both oppression and patronage, as he supported Ram Rai's endeavors while maintaining strict control over his empire. It stands as testament to this nuanced history. That is
Man,
interesting.
I just love our subscribers. They know so much. Thank you,
Yes.
Harnik. Excellent email.
And the next email is from Shrikant, who says, the focus on BSP's dwindling electoral fortunes made the episode riveting. He is referring to an episode of Hafta. BSP has a lot in common with the AAP with respect to delusions of grandeur. BSP fielded candidates in Lok Sabha polls across India, even though knowing full well they have abysmal strike rates and zero presence outside UP, except perhaps some districts in MP bordering UP. Mayawati is not India's Obama. She has several things going for her. Like, India has special reverence for politicians without blood relatives and legal or illegal heirs. Indians also have a soft corner for tough women politicians. Mayawati ticked both these boxes. However, she could not transcend her Dalit or Bahujan boundary. The collaboration with Satish Mishra was a local cosmetic change. Obama ticked the boxes of being black, which is important to the left, being heteronormative family man, important for American right, and he spoke of livelihoods, health, and soft inclusion, which is important for all. Mayawati, that way, lacked a third and fourth dimension.
Good analysis, Shrikant.
Yeah, the next email is from Shailaja, who talks about the language debate. She says, a lot of uninformed opinions have been thrown around by people who've probably never had to learn 3 languages simultaneously as a child in our school system. But I have, and it was not a pleasant experience. The debate ignores the fact that languages are best learned when there is a need for it. Although children learn faster, it depends entirely on how these lessons are delivered. I know a couple who raised their children to speak 2 languages, Telugu and Bengali, by talking to them in their respective mother tongues. Their children also spoke Tamil as they live in Chennai, and English, of course. So the question is not whether children can learn 3 languages, but whether what is taught in school qualifies as a subject to tick off a checklist, or language is a means of communication. Perhaps it's time for an expert on how languages are learned to weigh in on the debate.
I completely agree with Shelja.
Yeah, I mean, I was taught Hindi in school, but was taught only because they had to teach.
I think you learn so much by just I think one has to approach it very differently than how we are.
Devdi says, hello Hafta team, you're discussing cricket controversies in Hafta 5 to 8. The only cricket controversy that should be discussed, that is the only one that affects the common people, is this. Juxtapose 2 scenes. Number 1, during India versus Pakistan game, Anurag Thakur and Shahid Afridi mingled after years of spreading animosity in their own respective ways. And the second scene is from Maharashtra. the consequence of all the animosity created around this Gully Danda game that was the headline in Hafta 527. He's talking about a boy who was arrested for shouting slogans during
Yeah.
India-Pakistan match.
Mm.
So he says the 15-year-old boy was arrested. A Muslim UP immigrant parent, his Muslim UP immigrant parent's scrap shop was demolished. Mr. Rane did what he does best. The passerby was a VHP worker. Bail was received, but the boy cannot leave the state. The rule is this: elites, including journalists, can mingle and show affinity towards Pakistan, but the common man cannot.
I completely agree with Dave D. It is ridiculous, and I
Yeah.
think whether you are cheering for one country or the other, to be arrested for that is bizarre. When I was young, I remember my generation had Waqar Yunus, Waqar was much later, Wasim Akram had such a huge fan base.
Yeah.
The way people used to clap when Wasim Akram got even an Indian out, because we used to watch it in groups in the common room, it was huge. Today, kilo ke hisab se arrest ho. I think it is so idiotic, and these politicians are making the most of it because people are thrilled with the possibility of, yeah.
Next is Anonymous, who said, I found the Hafta episode regarding English language and free speech atmosphere very insightful. Here's an observation. As a corporate employee with prior experience in working in a public sector bank, I've seen firsthand how systems favor those in power. During a cab ride recently, the driver criticized the Hyderabad government while praising the central government. After we chatted further, he revealed his affiliation with the Bajrang Dal and RSS, having attended their camps. He shared a viral video of Sunita Williams allegedly mentioning the Bhagavad Gita and Ganesh idols, claiming they aided her safe return from space. This video is from 2013. It's been debunked as fake news, and the driver, despite his affiliation, was unaware of government schemes and said he was facing a personal debt due to lack of awareness. This highlights how misinformation can drown out rational discourse in public spaces.
No doubt. So Sarat says, hi Nil team, I want to say that people like Shambhaji in today's world, like GN Sai Baba, who suffered tragically because of politicians and courts. Bail not granted for a 90% crippled person is a crippling system. I see politicians getting house arrest, but not a crippled person. Protests should happen for them rather than 350-year-old issues for which none of the current generation is responsible. If Aurangzeb's death place needs to be removed, people should file an issue in court and then a judge will decide its fate. Everyone should think how stupid it is if a prominent person dies now because of a system and 350 years later someone is destroying a cremation site. Sarat, there's too much reason and logic in your mail. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. Then Dheeraj says, hello everyone, liked your discussion on nationalism and patriotism. Manisha mentioned she loves India as in Indian people, including those from BJP, which is akin to saying she loves all things Indian, including sewage-filled rivers and polluted cities. That's harsh. Which is of course untrue because Manisha, like many, loves some idea of India which exists in her head. It might be Nehruvian India in her vision, so she doesn't love everything Indian. She doesn't love a rapist Indian, nor a casteist Indian. Does she? Hope not. This is not an attack on Manisha. What she said is a line often repeated by almost everyone without ever concentrating on what it means. And many times it is used to hide some issue or to silence someone who is speaking about some issue. Have sent rest in mail. Well, we read your mail. Neeraj. Manisha, anything you have to say? Do you love all Indians? Like each and every one?
Yes.
Okay.
All of them.
Shall I start taking,
भारत हमको
shall I start taking
जान
names?
से प्यारा है. I'll start singing.
Shall I start taking
सबसे
specific names?
प्यारा गुलिस्तां हमारा है. सदियों से भारत भूमि दुनिया की
She
शान.
knows
I
the
can sing.
lyrics, man.
My
I'm
God!
impressed.
She's
I'm
true
impressed.
patriot.
She's true patriot. Truly. Then Manan Shah says, in reply to Abhinandan's, in India, privilege is complex. There's gender, there's caste, there's money, etc. Every inequality in India, apart from gender, is a manifestation of caste. Economic privilege has direct correlation to caste, apart from limited expectations. Caste system itself is very complex and also a function of geography. The way we were taught in school, the hierarchy, Brahmins, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Dalit, that was a British model of complex hierarchy. The model's only use was to control or administer the population of our subcontinent. Often most people think that this hierarchy is what's set in stone, and when things don't seem like that, they say caste system doesn't exist. The model is not very useful when you want to study Indian reality or do something about it. In fact, it hinders progress in real sense because it overlooks subdivisions among each. Yeah, you're right. It does overlook subdivisions among each, and geography also. That's Vatsal says, Kill Tony, the show on which India's Got Latent is based, did a hilarious episode with two guys on the panel impersonating Trump and Biden. It's an old episode. Regardless of US's institutional failings as a state, it made me realize that we in India can never reach that level of individual freedom as theirs, especially in terms of media, where in a comic show, two guys impersonate an absolute stereotype, two of the most powerful men in their country, and not get slapped with everything ranging from PMLA to NIA and UAPA. It was a hilarious episode though, and would be decent to watch if you are looking for a hearty laugh. Vatsal, on this I'm on your team. It's many others here who say, no, India's way ahead of America.
What? I say America is shit, but India is even more shit. So, how dare you?
No, if you saw the last episode of Jimmy Kimmel, this Marjorie Taylor Greene, he made a joke at her. She said, and it was a joke that it didn't even reference violence. He just said, she says, she tagged the police and said, I'm filing a police complaint. This man is advocating violence against me. I want whatever the LA police to take action. He retweeted her saying, Dear LA police, I'd like to report a joke. And he was completely chilled about it. Can you imagine someone of the equivalent stature of Marjorie Taylor Greene tagging the cops in our country because of a joke someone made as
And
an
the
arrest him?
comic responding.
The arrest would happen before he could even respond, dude. It would happen in 5 minutes. Yeah. Then Joey says, Hello, Mr. Sekhri. As a recent subscriber to newslaundry, I commend the team for its insightful Hafta episodes, editorials and interviews. The recent investigative piece on Orwell was particularly poignant. So this was done in partnership with News Minute, right?
Yes.
So it was a News Minute reporter. We must send this.
Pooja Prasanna was
Pooja Prasanna. So Pooja has done this. Thank you, Pooja. As climate change and sustainability consultant who visited Orwell multiple times before 2021, I was disheartened to see the dismantling of its green ecosystem. Orwell has long championed principles like agroforestry, waste management and eco-friendly infrastructure, even before the Paris Agreement. It's perplexing that Orwell hasn't been designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which could have ensured its preservation. Instead, under the leadership of Gujarat cadre bureaucrats, there's a push for redevelopment that prioritizes commercialization over consumers' foundational values. Over the commune's foundational values, sorry. The current governance approach seems to favor urban expansion and infrastructure development, sidelining the community's original ethos of collective well-being. Orwell's transformation into a center of excellence for sustainable living could have been a model for the world. Regrettably, the ongoing changes threaten to erode its unique identity. Thank you for reviving investigative journalism. Kudos once again to your team for in-depth reporting. So yeah, I agree. I've been to Orwell several years ago. I mean, it was really a case study, man. A fascinating case study. Finally, I'm going to read 2-3 quick mails. That leaves just about 17 odd mails, which we shall come to next time. So this one is from Vatsal again. A whistleblower, Rohan Mehta from Ministry of External Affairs, raised some serious concerns about high-level corruption. Now, I don't know how credible they were or not, but yes, I saw he had tagged me also. I'm not sure what is the specific allegation, but Vatsal, I don't know if anyone's really investigated this.
No, he made some allegations, wherever he served abroad with MEA. And he just made some allegations against his colleagues.
I see.
Now, it's very difficult for us to, cross-check it. And we don't, we want issues. We want...
I had got a call a long time ago alleging something, again, specific about, but those are not verifiable. So it's very difficult one. Then Madan Sharma says, with reference to Hafta 532, the audio clip of Trump cabinet meeting, it'd be interesting to get a peep into Modi's cabinet meetings to show that we are Vishwagurus. Madan, you're absolutely right. This would be, but I think in Modi's cabinet meeting, no one would have the guts to even speak, even to praise him. I think that would be the level. And then Abhijit and Mohana say, refusing services of Muslim service providers is terrible. We have colleagues who are refusing to go to Muslim barbers because they're concerned that the barber will slit their throat. Abhijit, Mohana, you need to stop hanging out with these kind of colleagues, and please tell me where you work. I haven't read it out, but mail me and tell me where you work. I'd really like to.
No, but he's very right.
Don't see them refusing the instruction of Muslim seniors, though. No, he's saying, but if a Muslim senior gives them an instruction, they will obey. But they will not do Muslim this thing because the barber may cut his throat. My God.
But look at the kind of narrative we see across the Sartan Se Juda thing. It's literally every time you turn on the channel, it seems like some Muslim is out there lurking to do Sartan Se Juda. So I feel like that. I mean, I don't agree with this, obviously, and I get why you're disgusted with it, but there is a lot of push towards this sort of propaganda
by
across
mainstream media.
everywhere.
I have seen
every channel is telling you that. You'll think, yes, it's a valid fear. They will do this.
No, the division is so widespread. I've seen a couple of places, small places, of course, which had just one barber shop run by Muslims. Now, to counter that, there is a Hindu barber shop as well.
Yeah, this is happening all over the
This
place.
is happening.
In fact, on that Nupur Sharma thing, when in that case in Udaipur, I want to know, follow up, what happened to that case? Those two men, where did they come from? What really happened? Have they been punished? Where's the case going? But because I remember back then also, on the back of that case, again, intense propaganda that everyone is suspicious. Like, you better be worried where you go next, because this may happen to you.
Then Supriya Guha says, apropos the anti-Muslim sentiment in Anandmat, the activities of Phadke, violent revolutionary who was caught and deported in the 1870s, bore an eerie resemblance to events in Bankim's book. Alarmed, the author removed even minor anti-British utterances. Thus, the book acquired a more marked anti-British tone. Please see Sumit Guna's book, The History and Collective Memory in South Asia, 1200 to 2000. 2019 PP 137, that's a page, etc. I would add my opinion of Upamanyu's knowledge of Bengali, but an old friendship, space and discretion constrain me.
I
I
love
think
it.
this you had said that you...
Yeah, Open News. I had cited his interview. His interview with Open Magazine.
Right. So Supriya says that she's an old friend, but she's clearly understanding of Bengali is not satisfactory from her Bengali standards. Right. On that note, we will finish. We just have about 15 emails left, and we shall read these next time because we have got these collected over almost 3 months. Tell us what you think of this format, because it's a lot more manageable from our point of view, because there is no way we can accommodate all the mails that come in every hafta. But this way we can discuss mails, we can actually reflect on the feedback and actually absorb it, because we've taken our time going over each email. But we should also give recommendations this time. It can be just one recommendation each. Anyone has any? I can start if you like.
I have one recommendation, which is actually, it's something I read long back, but I was thinking of recently. There's an old book by Rajiv Chandrasekhar called Imperial Life in the Emerald City. Rajiv Chandrasekhar, and he was, I think, Washington Post's bureau chief in Baghdad. And it's a very interesting sort of, it talks about the American occupation of Iraq, the walled-off enclave that they all lived in the green zone. You know, it was really posh, all the swimming pools, all the villas. That was where the Americans were headquartered. So he talks about what life was like in that small, cut-off, unreal sort of place in the vacuum of the war. So, yeah, that is my recommendation.
Anand, you have any recommendation? You don't have to this week. I mean, we usually do this on Hafta, but I just thought since we are sitting on a Hafta special.
3-4 mails were forwarded to me. It came directly to me. So they asked a question, and so I am converting it into a recommendation. Right. The answer. So they asked me to give more. Maybe they were students who wanted to know about Ashoka's elaborate influence over India's diplomacy. So I had mentioned in Hafta that Tashkent agreement had Ashoka influence, and the Simla agreement, and how Nehru valued Ashoka's diplomatic value. So one is Kalol Bhattacharya's book. I had also reviewed it and interviewed him. Also, so Nehru also viewed him like Ashoka propagated Buddhism to South Asian countries that we know. He sent Mahendra and like Sri Lanka and other countries of Southeast Asia. So he was perhaps seen as the Nehru also saw him as first ambassador of India's soft power. So Buddhism. So that diplomatic heft that Ashoka had, no Indian emperor had. apart from also his arc of his Plato's manifestation of philosopher king that he had. So Kalol's book also, Ashoka, a book on Ashokan Empire, many you can see, but R.S. Sharma, also Romila Thapar, Maurya's book on Maurya's and Ashoka's diplomatic influence. So these are my recommendations as well, my answers to your questions.
Raman sir?
There are two documentaries, one on Geo Hotstar, The Way I See It. This is, story, the anchor is official White House photographer during Obama time and Ronald Reagan. And he had very extensively, taken pictures of Obama. After Trump came in, so he wanted to protest that the American president has to be a serious man. So he started showing those pictures on Instagram. And he became so popular. So somebody made a documentary on his pictures, Obama picture. Pictures are absolutely superb. And it's called The Way I See It on Geo Hotstar. And second, I think most of us know what happened with Osama bin Laden. American Manhunt, Osama bin Laden, 3-part series. I think it's a very well-structured and well-told story. Chronologically, they have put up the entire video story, which is pretty good, quite gripping.
Right. Manisha?
I watched a mini series over the weekend, Dying for Sex, which is about a terminally ill patient. It's very beautiful, tender. The female friendship plot in is very nice and refreshing. So maybe you can watch it, but it's a bit depressing.
Right. I have two recommendations. Both we spoke about, there were some emails about that. One is on capitalism and its critics. I think it's a fantastic conversation on Radio Open Source with New York Magazine writer John Cassidy, and
He's written a book on this.
yes,
A recent book.
he's written a recent book, exactly. So he discusses that book, and I think it is a pretty fair and balanced, and not balanced for the sake of balancing, a view of capitalism, certain value that of course societies derive from it, and what its biggest failings and weaknesses are, and if at all they can be addressed without throwing the whole system out altogether. And the second is Trump losing a debate, the Ezra Klein show, where he has guests, one of whom has just written a long piece on what he calls competitive authoritarianism. And he has compared, 4 countries and 4 rulers, including Mr. Modi, and how they are actually trying to, hack away at institutions, at the similarities of the mechanisms they use. And it is striking, the similarities. So on that note, thank you so much for writing in. Tell us if you like this format. If you have any ideas or suggestions on how we should address all the emails, because we get so many and we really want to address them, do write into us at podcast@newslaundry.com. Until then, have a fantastic week. We leave you with this song just because I really love it and I just discovered it. Thank you, Raman sir. Thank you, Manisha. Thank you, Anand.
Thank you.
Thank you for wonderful producer Ashish. And thank you to our sound recordist, Anil.